I'm here to talk about Canada Post, the government, and the strike. Canadians should be doing the morally correct thing and backing Canada Post's employees, not the government in its stance. And here's the reasons why. Canada Post is a service to be provided. It is not or should not have ever been a company to make profit. It doesn't affect me if they closed down my closest Canada Post outlet because I live in a city where the next Canada Post outlet isn't that far away. I can easily get there with just a few minutes at a time. It doesn't affect me personally, and sadly, that's the reason most Canadians don't support the Canada Post employees because most of us live in an urban area. Most of us don't really need the Postal Service all that badly anymore. But the Postal Service is of great importance to people who live in remote communities. It's also very important to a lot of small businesses. It's a service that they need and a service that the government should be providing. Closing down my postal outlet changes very little for me, for my neighbors. But what if I lived in a small northern rural community? If they closed down my postal outlet when I lived there, I would have a 200 or 300 kilometer round trip to go to the next postal outlet. That's unacceptable. It's not morally the right thing to do. Our northern communities are more important to us than we realize, and they're getting more important every day. Look around at the world. Every country is getting worse off. We've got threats from Russia. We've even got threats from our closest neighbor. We can't afford to abandon people who live in northern communities. We can't afford to abandon people who live in remote communities just because they're remote. We should be providing them with the services they need, and Canada Post is one of those services. We need to stop treating Canada Post as some kind of company that needs to make a profit and start treating it as what it needs to be, a service provided to people who need it. It's vitally important to a lot of small communities that these places exist. Canada Post should not be allowed to just start shutting them down. It's a major issue. You can take away my door to door delivery. I don't care. It doesn't really affect me personally that much. It's very different for someone who lives in one of these remote communities. They are dependent on the services that Canada Post provides, and Canada Post should not be able to arbitrarily just push that aside. My tax dollars can be used to supplement what happens in those small remote communities. I'm good with that. Most Canadians should be good with that. But sadly, a lot aren't. There's other things to consider here too. A letter carrier makes a median income of about $58,000 a year. Postal clerks make even less. Now, Canada Post is pushing at these people to either have them eliminated entirely or for them to take reduced pay, reduced hours, reduced benefits. At the same time, the CEO of Canada Post makes a staggering amount of money, between $573,000 and $674,000 every year. That does not include his bonuses. Now, when you're making 12 times more than the median income level of the people who work for you, and you can't run the company to the point where it's providing the services needed, I would say you're massively overpaid. You don't deserve that money. The CEO, most of the other executives, the members of the board of Canada Post are all massively overpaid, and they don't give a darn about you, me, the service provided, or Canada Post. They are becoming millionaires off of our tax dollars. Wrong. To put it in perspective, the Prime Minister's salary is $406,000 a year. I think he's overpaid too, but he's making less than the CEOs of Canada's crown corporations. Ridiculous. Unacceptable. The government needs to change its tune, and you, as a Canadian citizen, can help them change that tune. Contact your member of parliament, whoever they are. Tell them that it is unacceptable that Canada Post is doing this. Tell them it is unacceptable to pay the CEO that ridiculous amount of money. Tell them it is unacceptable to pay postal clerks less than $50,000 a year. Tell them it is unacceptable to close down postal outlets in remote communities. Contact your member of parliament and make it very clear that you want Canada Post to go back to being the service it once was, instead of a for-profit corporation that simply can't compete with the modern equivalents, things like courier companies. It needs to be looked at, treated as a service, just like we provide the service of universal health care. It should be for everyone, and our taxes should pay for it. You cannot expect Canada Post to carry on as a service, but expect it to make money. It doesn't work that way. Services sometimes cost more than they make, and that's all there is to it. Nobody should have their postal outlet removed if they live in a remote community. These things are important. These things need to be preserved. You can't abandon people just because they have the misfortune of living in some small remote community. Contact your member of parliament, tell them that you're unhappy with the way this is going, and return Canada Post to being a service, not a crown corporation. That's all I have to say.